Hey, it's Sri here, and in today's video, I'm going to explain to you the steps that you need to take if your husband has recently left you, and make sure that not only are you handling the situation with your marriage in the best possible way, but you're also doing the necessary healing on the inside as well. My name's Sri Rajasekar, and I help women from all over the world who have been on the receiving end of infidelity to be able to really heal themselves from within and ultimately maximize their chances of saving their marriage. Because inevitably, when you're going through that sort of pain, you're wanting to restore the family dynamic. You're wanting to create a beautiful dynamic moving forward, even if some of those behaviors have occurred. And in particular, I want to explain to you a little bit more about male psychology. I've had the privilege to be able to work with hundreds and hundreds of women from all over the world to be able to create shifts in not only themselves, but also in their marriage. People like Amanda, people like Angie, people like Laurie. There's so many women who've been able to create some amazing shifts in their marriage. And I want to help you on that journey right now. Make sure you hit that subscribe button below and click on that bell notification as well, so every week you get access to my latest videos where I talk you through how to really heal from infidelity, how to maximize your chances of saving your marriage, and really learning more about male psychology as well, because I really believe that there is a huge difference between how men and women tend to communicate. And it often is one of the main reasons why marriages tend to fall apart over a long period of time. Now, if your husband has recently left you, the chances are that he's going to be in one of three positions that I often see. The first is that he absolutely wants out. He's fallen out of love with you. Sometimes he might even go to the extreme and say that he hates you and just doesn't want to be around you. And that's often the first scenario that people find themselves in. Now, when a man is in that situation, he says he hates you. I just want to be really clear here that obviously when you hear those words, it immediately just pierces your heart and makes you feel just extreme pain, extreme hurt, and understandably so. But a lot of the time it's because there's been what we call emotional stacking over a long period of time. And in my experience, what I find is that when people are in a highly emotional state, they will act in ways and say things that go against what the very core of them actually feels in that moment in time. So he might be saying things like, I hate you and I'm sick of it, you've always been so mean to me for such a long time, you've always been critical, or whatever it may be. But the chances are that his feelings are going to be completely exaggerated and possibly completely different to what the actual reality of the situation is. There may have been moments where you might have got grumpy at him or whatever, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's happened over and over and over hundreds of times over the last few years. All it takes is just a few moments and then suddenly that gets stacked, so it feels like it's all the time. And the other thing is that when people are emotional, often the truth gets distorted a bit as well. Or things that weren't a problem suddenly become a problem. And to give you a bit of an illustration of this, I thought I'd just explain a little bit about a personal example of mine. Years ago, I was flatting with these two ladies who were about 20 years older than me. And what had happened was, there was a few problems between us. There was a lot of misunderstandings. And then they had got to a point where they said, look, we want you out of the house. But what was interesting was when we actually had a conversation, we were discussing some of these things. They had stated a couple of times about how they hated the music that I was playing in the house. Now, it was quite interesting because when we were actually living together, I'd actually told them numerous times, I said, look, if my subwoofer is too loud or if the volume's too loud, or please let me know. And they're like, no, we actually love the music. But then what had happened was, because we had created this sort of uncomfortable situation in the flat and they wanted me out, then they brought up things that weren't actually an issue before, but suddenly were an issue now. And it just kind of reinforced the point to me that when people are in an emotional state, they're looking for things, they're looking for problems, they're looking for reasons that can back up their emotions and what they're feeling at that moment in time. And this can often happen in marriages. You might be sitting there going, but I'm confused, we didn't really have any issues, or they weren't major, and suddenly he just feels like, I used to do this all the time and I'd be critical and angry and so on. And this is what I hear a lot from my clients. So I can understand how frustrating it is. But the reason why I point this out is because if you can recognize that what this is not actually about the circumstances as such, but the emotional state that he's in, then what you can do is you can start to lay the platform for your future and also create the shifts from within to be able to change the dynamic that you have with him in the long run. And I'll explain this in a little bit more detail as we go through this video. But if you recognize that it's actually his emotions that are taking over, then that allows you to really kind of take the steps that you need to in order to move forward, and it gives you some fundamental hope that you might actually be able to shift this. Now, the second scenario that he may be in is that he says he loves you, but he doesn't really feel like this marriage is the right one for him anymore. And once again, that can often be because of a number of behaviors that have been stacking up over a long period of time. Obviously, every marriage has its own scenarios, and there's lots of little nuances with every single one. So it's hard to work through every scenario right now. However, as I said, over the years, there are lots of things that can play a part. And these can be big things, they can be small things. Sometimes it can be relating to infidelity. Sometimes it might be that he's jealous of maybe some of the men that you might be speaking to at work. Sometimes it might be frustrated because he doesn't feel like he's being respected, or it may be that he doesn't feel like he's valued and he's appreciated as much as he wants to, and so on. So lots of things, and once again, they can stack up and stack up and stack up. And one thing that I've observed, not only in my own experience, but in working with so many women, is that what's interesting in relationships, it doesn't take much for those problems to stack. So you have one little problem that creates a little bit of frustration. Then you see a little bit more, and then you see a little bit more, and you see a little bit more. And before you know it, it just blows out of proportion. And you're thinking to yourself, how the hell did it get to this point? But it really doesn't take much. And that's why you have to be really conscious of these behaviors. But I say these things because I want you to also recognize it's absolutely possible to flip it as well. To start to create the shifts that you're looking for, and to create the shifts that he's really looking for as well. Because believe it or not, there is often a part of him that actually wants to work on it, but he feels like he's had all of these challenges, nothing's worked, and so he honestly feels like on some level he's just given up. So that's the second place that he might potentially be in. The third is when he actually is a really nice guy, he loves you, but he's not quite sure if this is the right marriage anymore. It's not the same as number two, where he's completely convinced that he is done and it's over. In this situation, he is open to the idea that it may work out, but he needs a bit of space. Some men in this situation as well are often too afraid to be able to say what they want to their wife. And so what they say, just to try and sugarcoat it, is, there is a chance, but we kind of just I need a little bit of space, I need a little bit of time away, I need to just kind of work through some things. And that's their way of often trying to just gently let the wife off. And this can be really frustrating for a lot of women. It can be very painful because it leaves them with this hope of thinking, is this going to happen? Can we make this work? But the thing I will say is that if men are in this situation, you don't ever want to just give up and think, all right, we're done, because he wants a bit of space. Because underneath those words, there's often a part of them that is slightly open to the idea of change, that's slightly open to the possibility that things might shift. But you need to approach it in the right way. A lot of people in these situations will just beg and plead and get very emotional and use guilt trips, sometimes even get angry as a tactic to try and get them back. But that's actually not going to work. But that's highly unlikely to work. It may, but the problem is once you get him back, he's going to still feel those same emotions. You've got to create an overall shift. Now, regardless of these situations, regardless of where he's at, we've got to ask ourselves, what steps do we need to take? Well, there are 3 really important steps that you need to take, regardless of where he's at, in order to be able to move forward, to maximize your chances of saving your marriage. And worst case scenario, even if it doesn't work out, that you've done the necessary healing from within, and that you're able to move forward and be in a beautiful place, and not get to this place where you're feeling angry and bitter and cynical and all of that sort of stuff. We want to move away from all of that. We want you to find true healing. So how do we do that? We need to walk through these 3 steps now. Now, the first step we need to take is to make sure that we recognize what the hidden gift in the situation is. Now, bear with me for a second, because I know you're probably going to be listening to this and going, oh, come on, there's not a gift in any of this. This is horrible. This is painful. But there always is. There is always a gift, no matter how difficult a situation. If I look at my life and I think about my health problems, relationship problems, financial problems, the whole package, There has always been a gift that has come out of it. I was speaking to a client earlier today whose ex-husband had been a nightmare to deal with for over a decade. And then her daughter started developing some health problems. And what was really interesting, that thankfully they've managed to get the health problems under control. But she said that as these problems came out, that the ex-husband started to empower the wife a lot more. And he started to say things like, look, you've got a lot of expertise in this area. I back everything that you say. I back everything that you do. Just keep me in the loop, keep me informed. And what's amazing, this nightmare of a situation for her where there's been all this toxicity and narcissism and so on, all of that has just slowly kind of washed away, and they've got this beautiful connection between the two of them. It's not that they're perfect and they're in this lovely place all the time, but they're able to be amicable and they're able to manage the parental situation in a beautiful way. And we were talking about how this is a gift, that the really unfortunate health challenges that her daughter had actually brought the two of them together. There is always a gift, my friends. Please remember this. So firstly, you have to recognize what the gift is. Is it helping you to learn more about yourself? Are there areas that maybe you could have improved in terms of the marriage? I know that's an uncomfortable thing to have to think about, but it may help you moving forward, whether it's in this marriage or in a future marriage. It's really good to look at what are the areas that we can actually improve in. See, there's nothing greater than the power of a directed mind. When we're in these really difficult situations, our brain is naturally going to go towards all of the negative things. But if you can just switch your gaze a little bit and start to focus on what are the benefits, what have I learned, how can I grow from all of this? Your brain, you literally start to focus in a different direction. Then what happens is you start this beautiful stream of positive thoughts, of things that you really can focus on that are actually benefiting the quality of your life. And that's a magical thing. It really is. And I promise you, if you start getting on that train of thought rather than the whole negative side all the time, it's amazing what can happen in terms of not just your interactions with your husband, but just you feeling good. You know, we want you to feel good on a regular basis. So really make sure you put that energy into placing your focus on what are the gifts, what have you learned, what are the benefits out of all of this. Now, the second step that you need to take when it comes to actually managing your situation right now, but in particular the immediate circumstances that you need to face, is think, temporarily shift, and then act. You see, as I've said before, when something really painful has come into your life, you're going to be in a naturally emotional state. Whenever we're really high in emotion, we don't make great decisions. And that's not just you, that's all of us. You know, I know in my life, whenever I've been in really highly emotional states, I've made some really poor decisions. So what we need to do is create some changes. We need to create some shifts there. So firstly, what we need to do is we need to actually think. We need to ask questions of ourselves. What can I learn from this moment? Is the way that I'm acting the best way forward? Is this actually going to benefit me in the long run? You can ask questions of yourself in those moments. And then what you do is you temporarily shift. And what that means is you temporarily shift your emotions in that moment. So let's say, for example, your husband is trying to get in touch with you and he's being really angry with you. Now you might say to yourself, once you're off the phone with them, you might say, okay, what is the gift in this? Well, the first thing is it's helping you to try and manage your emotional state with someone who's in a really difficult place. Or it's helping you to go, is there a better way in which I can actually change my communication or create the shifts? Or is there a way that I can really open my heart to him so that he's actually more understanding and empathetic of what's going on? Or can I be more empathetic and understanding of what's going on here? So those are the first things that you're thinking about. Then what you do is you temporarily shift. So we just want to create a shift in your emotional state right now, as quickly as you possibly can. Now, how do you do that? Well, what you can do is firstly, you can actually do what we call heart-based breathing. So you can put your hand on your heart and you can literally just close your eyes and you can breathe from your heart and literally imagine the breath just coming in and out of your heart for the next 2 minutes. And just doing that, just focusing on your breathing, just temporarily for a couple of minutes, will immediately create a shift in your emotional state. Now that might be one thing you might do. I've got my little mini trampoline around here. So what I often do is I put my headphones on, I jump on the mini trampoline, and it just gets my body moving. It gets me more in a upbeat, energetic kind of state. And that can create a shift in how I feel. Or it might be a case of just going out and connecting in with nature and just feeling what's around me. That could be a really quick and easy way to shift how you feel. Then once you shift how you feel, then you can act on it. So what does my heart believe I need to do about this situation now? What do I need to do? And then you allow your heart to guide you around what it is that you need to do. And you will get that intuition. You will get those impulses inside that say, okay, I need to say this to him. Or maybe I need to just back off for a little bit. Or maybe I won't respond to that text, but I'm going to maybe get back to him tomorrow once I've just settled down and I've balanced myself a bit more. That's the beauty of shifting your emotional state. And remember, this is a temporary shift because we're dealing with a micro situation, in other words, an immediate situation right now. Then thirdly, what we need to do is we need to actually create permanent shifts, both emotionally and mentally. And this is where the real magic happens. When you can really create the positive shifts at the deeper level, and not just, in the short term, but really in the long term, when you're really creating profound, deep shifts, where you can create really deep and profound shifts on an emotional and mental level, it is amazing how life can change really quickly. I see it all the time with clients and followers and so on. You absolutely can create those shifts, but it requires you to do the work. Now, I know that it can be a little bit frustrating, feeling like, why do I have to do the work when we've got this really difficult situation? Maybe he cheated on me or he decided to leave. You have to remember that you are the centerpiece of your life. And if you don't do the work, no one will. And you'll continue to just deal with the situation over and over and over. And whilst I have some incredible clients that I deal with on a regular basis that have created extraordinary shifts, I also deal with other circumstances with people who may engage with my work from time to time, and often they do nothing. And sadly, 6 months down the line, a year down the line, 2 years down the line, they've still done nothing and haven't created any real shifts. But the problem is that you either deal with your problems now, or you deal with them in 6 months or a year or 2 years or 5 years. But you have to deal with them at some point. So you've got to make sure you do the healing and do the work. And I promise you, it is so worth it. Now, when it comes to healing on an emotional and a mental level, what we need to do is create a shift in our thinking, but we also need to create a shift in terms of how our emotions operate internally. See, a lot of the time, our thinking is on autopilot, our emotions run on autopilot. We don't know what's going on, and we're reacting to the external stimulus rather than having an actual ownership of what's going on inside of us, both mentally and emotionally. It happens all the time. It's happened to me for years and years and years, and thankfully I've been able to create some real changes in my life where I've been able to, shift that. And I'm telling you now, you absolutely have the ability to do it, but it requires discipline, it requires some dedication, it requires you to do the work. And it's really powerful. And that's exactly why I produced my Authentic Relationship System training program, which is an incredible program. It is world class because it provides support, not just individually, but also on a group level. You have your own self-study training course where you can go through an in-depth level of material where you're going to learn the exact steps, and I mean it, like the exact steps you can walk through to create the shifts both mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. It's extremely powerful, and it is something that I've taken all of the learnings and all of the lessons that I've had from my clients and also things that I've worked on with my own self and packaged it up into the most incredible training program, and I know you'll absolutely love it. The only thing is that you've got to be willing to do whatever it takes, and you've got to be willing to actually genuinely want to create shifts from within. A lot of people talk about wanting change, but very few people actually do anything about it. And so if you're in a place where you're really wanting to maximize your chances of saving your marriage, you're wanting to heal from within, and you're really wanting to create those shifts that I'm talking about, then I'd love to speak to you personally, just to see if this is a good fit for you. All you need to do is in the description section below, just click on that link where it says book a call with me. Just click on that link, choose a time that works for you, and then I'll contact you at the scheduled time, and I can learn a little bit more about where you are now, where you want to get to, and just how we can bridge that gap in the shortest possible time. I know that you're going through a lot of pain right now, and my heart just breaks for you, because I know and I see it on a regular basis, that the pain that my clients are going through. But I also see the other side, where people have gone from that pain and gone into this most beautiful, independent, empowered woman, and that have been able to create shifts in their marriages, but also massive shifts within themselves as well. And I'd love you to create those shifts, because not only is it about you, it's about impacting those around you, your children, your family, etc. When you make those changes, it has a ripple effect in society, and I want that for you, and I want that for the world, to be honest. So if you are wanting to speak to me, once again, just click on that link, choose a time that works for you, and then I'll contact you and we can walk through all the details. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've liked it, make sure you hit the like button below. If you want to get more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And do let me know what your biggest takeaway is from this video as well. Just let me know in the comment section below. Just write down your comments and your questions, and I'll make sure to respond to every single one of you. And if you want to know the signs that maybe your husband is cheating on you, just click this video above. If you want to learn what to do if your husband wants to separate, just click this video above. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you in the next video.